I was chilling with a wedding planner recently, and we were trading horror stories about interesting and downright frightful conversations that we sometimes have with potential customers, clients, and people that we would like to do business with. Now, she was talking to an MC recently to secure his services for a wedding, and she was like, well, she said, I don't like him. He's just rude. He's proud. And so I pressed a little further to find out what the problem was. It's like, proud? You know, what did he say? Did he say anything rude? And she said it was just his general attitude, and he kept on going on about, and I'm trying to quote verbatim, for your information, I have emceed at the wedding of so and so. For your information, I have emceed at the wedding of so and on, and name dropping. And we just had a laugh about it, and our conversation moved on. But the but that episode, it struck a nerve in me, and I figured I'd make a podcast recording about it because, in a way, I understand what that MC was trying to do. He was trying to show some credibility. He was trying to establish competence and credibility to show that he had emceed at high profile weddings, and so because of that, he should be taken seriously, and it shows that he knows his stuff. But unfortunately, the way that he went about it was not endearing. Maybe for those of you in different cultural climes, for those of you listening from other countries, maybe that kind of expression for your information probably doesn't mean anything or doesn't signify much. But in the Nigerian context, it's a little off-putting and maybe shows that you are talking down to someone to say for your information, so and so, especially in that kind of context. Anyway, long and short of the story is the wedding planner is not going with the said MC. But for the rest of us who try to show credibility and establish competence in not very effective ways, it's for our benefit that I am making this podcast today. So rather than saying for your benefit and then begin to name drop, because this is something that anybody can do, I can say for your benefit, I photographed the wedding of Mark Zuckerberg and use that to try and show some credibility. And actually, I didn't. I'm just making stuff up. And another person can say, for your information, I'm the one who baked the cake at Tony Blair's wedding. Or, for your information, I was the one who handled all the decoration at Dangote's daughter's wedding. Now, rather than making off-putting and declarative statements like that, for your information, what else? Okay, I can't think of anything. But rather than using those sorts of statements, it helps to establish credibility using storytelling. So you wait for relevant parts in the conversation where you're discussing particular items, and then you look for storytelling and conversational points in the conversation to show how credible you are. So the conversation can flow along, and then when it gets to a relevant point, you can say, "Oh, that reminds me. During Babangida's son's wedding, when I was the MC, blah 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 blah." You know, that is still obviously name dropping, but it is done in a much more conversational and friendly way, and in a much more it lends itself much more better to storytelling, because then you're going to be able to say what the situation was, how you overcame it, or what the funny anecdote was, or whatever it is that led you to display your to display your level of artistry and your level at skill at whatever it is that you do. So that is a much better way. You're having the conversation with the bride, you're the wedding photographer, and then you can say, "Oh, at the similar wedding that I covered in the Seychelles, these and these and these were what we did, and this was the plan, and all whatnot." So you don't have to come right out and say, "For your information, I only do destination weddings," or "For your information, I'm hot cake, and so people are chasing me for destination weddings." Now, there are some clients that will fall for that line of thinking, because some people really love exclusive vendors, I do not know how that works, but I have seen it. There are some vendors here in Abuja, I'm not going to drop any names, who are not very pleasant to deal with, and even hear of a makeup artist who sometimes abuses members of the bridal train. But I guess there are people who like that kind of thing, that you're exclusive, you're top dog, and so it'll be an honor to work with you, even if you're not a nice person. But for the average person, it can be very off-putting. So rather than the for your information kind of move, look for easy points in the conversation, use storytelling techniques, delve into it, and try and emphasize how you overcame challenges, how you were able to help the clients achieve what it is that they were working towards. Basically, to just show how you used your flair, used your artistry, your talent, your wit, your expertise, your professional flair, and how you were able to save the day. So that is a much better way of going about it. And now, another thing about credibility and competence, especially when it comes to the whole thing of name dropping. Sometimes name dropping can be counterintuitive. So yes, I might have covered Mark Zuckerberg's wedding and Jeff Bezos' wedding, and let's see, who else? Maybe Buhari's wedding. But the thing is, if I'm talking to an ordinary Joe Ogedengbe, then the fact that I have covered all these weddings might be frightening. Let me put it that way. Might be frightening and scare them away. So, ordinary Joe Ogedengbe might be an okay upper middle class type person who can comfortably drop, 400 or 500k for wedding photography, or whatever. I mean, he might be able to afford your services, but you start off the conversation saying that you did Zuckerberg, Buhari, Bezos, and the Queen of England's wedding. Chances are you might say, okay, that's all right, thank you very much. Send me your packages and let me think about it. Let me discuss with Madame, and I'll call you back. So, this name dropping thing has to be done with wisdom. You have to consider who it is that you are speaking with, and you have to name drop with names, case studies, scenarios that people can relate with. So if you're talking with Mark Zuckerberg and you're using instances of what you did at Joe Ogedengbe's wedding, it's not going to relate. But if you're talking to Jeff Bezos and you're talking about what you did at some Hollywood superstar's wedding, or at Mark Zuckerberg's wedding, it's going to relate. On the other hand, if you're talking to a Hollywood A-list celebrity and you're talking about stuff that you did at Genevieve's wedding, it might not relate, because A-list Hollywood celebrity probably doesn't know anything about Genevieve and the top acting tier of talent in Nigeria and in Africa. So that's one thing that we have to bear in mind when we are doing the name dropping thing. So if you're talking to ordinary Joe, there's no point in bringing out that you did Ojuku's wedding or Basanjo's son's wedding, or whatever. There might not be. There are times when you can use that to introduce an aspirational element to show that you're top dog and to get people salivating and drooling after you. But it's something that you have to do with a little bit of caution, and only after you press, you ask questions, you qualify properly, and so you know exactly who it is that you are talking about. Not talking about, who you're talking to in the first place. It is only then you will know what stops to pull and what cards to throw out in the sales conversation. So that's all I've come on the air to address today. Thank you very much for listening to the show. And for those of you who have been trying to use attention-grabbing techniques like that, for your attention, I am hotcake. Let's see, what else? Don't you know that? Because I've heard of something like that. Don't you know that I was the official so at Dangote's daughter's wedding? So these are better ways that you can go about it in a much more conversational and relatable way. And remember that before we name drop, it's good to ask enough questions, know who it is that we're talking to, so that we'll know the appropriate name to drop. Because let's face it, you could be talking to some people and even amongst the billionaires, there are different levels. So you could be talking to some people, and you say that you covered, let me see, Dangote's daughter's wedding, for instance, and you never know. It might be an insult depending on who it is that you're talking to. Some people say that African billionaires are not really billionaires per se, because they're not really billionaires in dollars, but billionaires in local currencies and blah blah blah. So there actually might be that situation if you're at that kind of level where dropping Dangote's name might be off-putting. And so take it and apply it to the different segment of the market that you are. If you're talking to someone who is relatively, let's say, upper middle class, but then you're talking about someone who seems to be noteworthy but is more of a lower middle class person, or maybe people regard that person as money misroad, new money, nouveau riche, it might be down-putting and you might be harming yourself. So ask questions, be sure who you're talking to before you name drop, and let's try and make it easy, smooth, and conversational, with a little bit of storytelling doused in to show how wonderful we are and the kind of superheroes that we are. So thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer, Tavishima Ayede. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.